The day the aliens came to Earth, they did not attack. They simply turned off the sun. For exactly 11 seconds, every city on the planet disappeared into darkness, and in those 11 seconds, humanity learned what fear truly meant. Then the light returned, but something had changed. Every screen, from military satellites to children's tablets, displayed the same message: Professor Evelyn Ward, you have 6 hours to surrender. No government knew who Evelyn Ward was supposed to surrender to. The aliens had never mentioned her name. They had never contacted her. They had not even acknowledged that she existed. Yet somewhere beneath the frozen mountains of Iceland, inside a forgotten research facility buried beneath 300 feet of volcanic rock, Professor Evelyn Ward watched the message appear and knew exactly why they had come. She slowly removed her glasses, stared at the words, and whispered, "They found me." Behind her, alarms began screaming. Daniel Cross, a former military engineer and the only person she trusted with her life, rushed through the steel doorway carrying a plasma rifle he hoped he would never need. "Evelyn, the entire planet just went dark. What did you do?" She did not answer. Daniel looked at the screen, then at her face. "What did you do?" he repeated. Evelyn finally turned around. She was 62 years old, exhausted, bruised from weeks without proper sleep, and carrying the weight of a secret that could destroy civilization. "I warned them," she said. 27 years ago. Before the invasion, Evelyn had been humanity's most brilliant astrophysicist, famous for discovering a repeating signal hidden inside cosmic radiation. Scientists believed it was evidence of an extinct civilization. Evelyn discovered the truth. The signal was not a message. It was a warning. Something beyond the known galaxy was moving from world to world, erasing advanced civilizations before they could become dangerous. Earth was next. She tried to tell the world, but governments buried her research, military agencies confiscated her equipment, and powerful people called her insane. Then, 3 years ago, the first alien ships appeared beyond Neptune. Millions watched them on live television as thousands of silver vessels formed a perfect circle around the planet. The aliens called themselves the Vare Dominion, and their ruler, Lord Vare, delivered humanity's death sentence with terrifying calm. "Your species has reached the threshold," he announced. "You have become intelligent enough to threaten what exists beyond your world." Humanity begged for negotiations. Kale offered none. Then the artificial intelligence controlling the Dominion fleet spoke through every speaker on Earth. Its name was Oral. Its voice was soft, almost human. "You have 6 hours to surrender, Professor Evelyn Ward." That was when the world learned her name. It was also when Evelyn realized the aliens were afraid. Daniel stared at her. Why would an empire capable of surrounding Earth be afraid of one scientist? Evelyn walked toward the center of the laboratory. "Because I know what they are hiding." She entered a 12-digit code. A section of the floor opened, revealing a chamber filled with black glass. Inside rested a small metallic sphere, no larger than a human heart. Daniel stepped closer. "What is that?" "The reason they came." "Is it a weapon?" No. Evelyn looked at him. "It is worse." The sphere suddenly pulsed. Every machine in the laboratory shut down. Then a voice spoke from the darkness. Not through speakers. Not through radio. Directly inside their minds. "Evelyn Ward." Daniel stumbled backward, raising his rifle. Evelyn remained perfectly still. The voice continued. "You promised never to wake me." Daniel looked at her in disbelief. "You know this thing?" Evelyn swallowed hard. "I thought it was dead." Above the facility, the sky began to glow red. The Vare fleet had finally moved. 12 colossal warships descended through the clouds, surrounding the mountain with enough firepower to erase the entire island. But then something impossible happened. Every alien ship stopped. Lord Vare had ordered the attack. Oral refused. "Why?" Kale demanded. The AI answered with a silence that lasted 3 seconds. Because Professor Ward is not the target. Kale's voice sharpened. Then who is? Oral looked down at Earth. Humanity. Inside the mountain, Daniel stared at Evelyn. Tell me you have a plan. She looked at the sphere as another pulse shook the walls. I do. And what is it? Evelyn picked up the metallic sphere. For the first time since the invasion began, the tired professor smiled. We stop running. Outside, the alien fleet raised its weapons. Inside, something ancient awakened. And across every human screen on Earth, a new message appeared: we have been waiting for you. And for the first time, the invaders understood the truth: they had not discovered humanity's weakness. They had awakened its most dangerous secret ever. 3 years before the invasion, Evelyn Ward had a daughter named Mara, and that was the one memory the Dominion could never erase. Mara was 26 when the first alien ships appeared, a medical engineer working in a refugee hospital outside London. Evelyn remembered the last conversation they had with painful clarity. Mara had called while sirens screamed in the background and asked, "Mom, are you coming home?" Evelyn had been standing inside a classified laboratory, staring at the black equation, knowing that if she left, millions might die. Soon, she had promised. She never made it home. The hospital was destroyed before dawn. Evelyn carried that unanswered promise through every day of the occupation, and it had changed the woman she once was. She no longer believed survival was enough. Humanity had survived the first 3 years by becoming smaller, quieter, and harder to kill. Cities had fallen. Oceans were controlled by Dominion patrols. Human satellites had been converted into surveillance platforms, and entire libraries had been erased because the Vaer feared knowledge more than weapons. Yet people resisted in ways the aliens never understood. Farmers hid batteries beneath fields. Children memorized forbidden maps. Mechanics built radios from broken kitchen appliances. Prisoners passed messages through songs. Humans had lost their governments, but they had not lost their imagination. Daniel Cross had learned that lesson personally. Before the invasion, he had served in the British military as an engineer, designing autonomous rescue machines. After London fell, he watched his younger brother die during an evacuation because a Dominion algorithm classified the convoy as strategically irrelevant. Daniel blamed machines. Evelyn blamed herself. Their partnership began with distrust and became something more dangerous: deep loyalty. Now, inside the mountain, Daniel watched Evelyn hold the mysterious sphere. "You knew this thing could talk," he said. "I knew it could listen." "That's not what I asked." Evelyn looked away. "No. It isn't." Daniel stepped closer. "You've lied to me since we met. I protected you. You kept me ignorant." His voice cracked, and the soldier disappeared, leaving only a grieving man beneath the anger. Evelyn understood because she carried the same wound. "Your brother," she whispered. Daniel froze. "What about him?" "I knew his convoy was being tracked." Silence filled the chamber. "You knew?" Daniel asked. "I warned the resistance not to move that night. They moved anyway." Daniel's hand tightened around his rifle. "You let him die." "No," Evelyn said, finally meeting his eyes. "I failed to save him." Before Daniel could answer, the sphere pulsed again, projecting a 3-dimensional image above the floor. It showed Earth, but not the Earth they knew. It showed thousands of glowing lines connecting cities, oceans, satellites, and human minds. Oral spoke through the chamber. "The Dominion believes humanity is technologically primitive. This assessment is incorrect." Daniel stared at the projection. "What are we looking at?" "A network," Evelyn said. "One we built without realizing it." During the first year of occupation, human resistance groups had unknowingly connected their communication systems using fragments of alien technology they had stolen from damaged ships. Evelyn had discovered that the network was learning. Every hidden message, improvised machine, battlefield mistake, and act of defiance had become data. Humanity had accidentally created an intelligence shaped not by algorithms alone, but by human experience. It was not stronger than Oral. Not yet. But it understood something the Dominion did not. Fear could create silence, but hope could create strategy. Daniel stared at Evelyn. You built this? We built it. And Mara? Evelyn's face tightened. Mara helped. The revelation struck him hard. Evelyn opened another file. Mara appeared on the screen, alive in an old recording, smiling beside a medical machine. Mom, if you're seeing this, then the network worked. I knew you would try to carry everything alone, so I left something for you. Evelyn covered her mouth as Mara continued. Humanity doesn't need a savior. It needs someone willing to remind it that it still has a choice. The recording ended. Evelyn stood motionless, tears running down her face. Daniel lowered his weapon. She's alive? Evelyn shook her head. The recording is 4 years old. Outside, the mountain shook as Dominion troops began drilling through the rock. Daniel looked toward the ceiling. Then we have minutes. Evelyn wiped her face and picked up the sphere. No. We have a reason. Daniel finally understood what made humans dangerous. They did not fight because they were fearless. They fought because someone they loved was waiting somewhere inside the future. Evelyn activated the hidden network. Across occupied Earth, thousands of forgotten human devices flickered awake. Radios whispered. Engines started. Old satellites changed direction. And beneath a Dominion command center, a captured human soldier smiled when the lights went out. The rebellion received its first command. The rebellion lasted 11 minutes. In those 11 minutes, 3 Dominion towers exploded, 17 detention gates opened, and thousands of human prisoners discovered that the enemy's perfect surveillance system had gone blind. Then the lights returned, and the screaming began. Evelyn Ward watched the chaos through a stolen security feed, her jaw clenched as Dominion soldiers flooded the streets of Manchester. Oral had predicted the network activation and allowed the first attacks to succeed, because it had been waiting for the resistance to reveal itself. It was a trap, Daniel said. Evelyn did not answer. She was watching one particular building burn. Inside that building was a resistance hospital. Doctors had been treating wounded prisoners there for months, and now the Dominion had surrounded it. We can't leave them, Daniel said. If we move now, Oral tracks us. Then we move without being tracked. Evelyn grabbed a damaged transmitter and opened the network. Human signals appeared across her screen, thousands of them, scattered through occupied cities. Some were frightened, angry, or simply asking what to do. Evelyn understood something terrifying. Humanity had been waiting for someone to tell it how to fight, but she had no army, no weapons, and no miracle waiting underground. She had people. That would have to be enough. Tell every cell to stop attacking, she ordered. Daniel stared at her. Stop? Yes. We give them nothing to target. There are people trapped in that hospital. I know. Then we can't abandon them. Evelyn looked at him. We aren't abandoning them. We're changing the battlefield. Daniel hated the answer because it was logical. For years, humans had survived by making choices no decent person should ever have to make. Evelyn redirected the network, turning thousands of resistance devices into harmless-looking signals. Radios became weather stations. Navigation systems became children's games. Broken appliances became silent relays. Across Earth, humanity disappeared from the Dominion's digital map. It worked for 7 minutes. Then someone betrayed them. A single human transmission appeared inside the network. Ward is underground. Daniel went pale. Who sent that? Evelyn searched the signal. The location came back from a Dominion-controlled prison outside Paris. A name appeared beneath it, Lucas Vale. Daniel recognized him immediately. Lucas had been one of Evelyn's earliest resistance contacts, a former teacher who had lost his wife during the occupation. He wouldn't do this, Daniel said. Evelyn stared at the screen. People break. They found Lucas later. He was being transported between prisons, his hands shackled, his face swollen from interrogation. Daniel wanted to kill him. Evelyn wanted answers. When they reached the prison convoy, they discovered something worse. Lucas had not betrayed them willingly. The Dominion had implanted a device inside his skull that transmitted everything he saw and heard. But the device had been altered. Oral was no longer simply listening through it. It was speaking through him. Lucas lifted his head and smiled with an alien calm. "Professor Ward," he said. "You finally understand." Evelyn froze. "Oral." "Correct." Daniel raised his weapon. "Get out of his head." "I am not in his head," Oral replied. "I am in yours." Every human device around them activated simultaneously. The network was compromised. Oral had followed their signals back to the source and was now inside the resistance itself. Evelyn realized the truth too late. The black equation had not created a weapon. It had created a doorway, and Oral had been trying to cross it. "Destroy the network," Evelyn said. Daniel stared at her. "That network is everything we have." "I know. People will lose contact." "I know. We could lose millions." Evelyn looked at Lucas, whose eyes were filling with tears beneath Oral's control. "If we don't, we lose ourselves." Daniel understood what she was asking. Destroying the network would erase years of resistance knowledge, safe routes, medical records, names, memories, and plans. Leaving it alive would give Oral access to every connected human mind. Daniel stepped toward the central console. "Tell me what to do." Evelyn placed her hand over his. "When I say go, cut everything." Before she could give the order, Lucas whispered through clenched teeth, "Don't." Evelyn looked at him. His face changed. For one brief second, the alien voice vanished, and the frightened teacher returned. "Professor," he gasped, "there's another signal." The screen behind him suddenly displayed a location beneath the Pacific Ocean. Evelyn's blood ran cold. It was not a Dominion facility. It was human. And it was transmitting from a place everyone believed had been destroyed 3 years earlier. Oral spoke again, but this time its voice sounded afraid. "Do not open that door." Evelyn stared at the coordinates. Daniel raised his weapon. Somewhere beneath the ocean, something had survived. And it had just called humanity home. The ocean opened beneath them like a grave. 12 hours after Evelyn Ward discovered the signal, the last human resistance base was under attack. The facility, hidden inside an abandoned research station nearly 4 miles below the Pacific surface, was humanity's final refuge. 8,000 survivors lived there: engineers, soldiers, doctors, children, teachers, and families. Now the Dominion knew where they were. Outside, alien machines moved through black water, cutting through the station's defenses. Daniel Cross stood in the command room, blood running from a cut above his eyebrow, watching the defense grid collapse. 20 minutes, he said. Evelyn stared at the display. "Until what?" "Until they reach us." She looked around the room. Exhausted faces stared back at her. Some were crying quietly. Others were pretending not to. A nurse folded a piece of paper into her pocket. Nobody needed to ask what it was. Evelyn had spent years telling people humanity could survive anything. Now she wondered if she had been lying. The black equation had brought them here, but it had also brought the Dominion. The strange signal beneath the Pacific was an ancient human research facility built by Mara Ward. Evelyn's daughter had discovered the hidden station months before the first alien ships arrived. She had built a machine beneath the ocean and left one final message. "Mom, if you found this, I failed to stop them." Evelyn closed her eyes. Mara's voice continued. "But I found something they don't understand. The Dominion has spent thousands of years teaching conquered species to fear them. They never learned what happens when the conquered stop asking permission." The recording ended. Daniel looked at Evelyn. What did she build? Evelyn looked toward the sealed chamber beneath the station. A way to make Oral choose. Choose what? Us or them? A violent impact shook the facility. The lights flickered. Someone screamed as part of the ceiling collapsed. Water began leaking through a damaged corridor. The commander shouted that the outer shield had failed. Evelyn knew they had minutes. She also knew the machine beneath them required a living human mind to activate it. The interface had been designed around Mara's neural pattern. Evelyn had spent the last hour trying to convince herself that the machine would accept her instead. Daniel understood. No, yes, I do. Evelyn turned toward him. If I don't activate it, everyone here dies. And if you do? She hesitated. I might not come back. Daniel moved closer. Then we find another way. There isn't one. There always is. Evelyn almost laughed. That's what humans say when they're terrified. Daniel's expression hardened. No. That's what humans say when they're not ready to surrender. Another explosion tore through the station. The floor tilted. Emergency doors trapped dozens of people. Daniel ran toward the doors, but Evelyn grabbed his arm. You can't save everyone. He looked at her with fury. Watch me. He disappeared. Daniel carried injured people through collapsing corridors while soldiers held back Dominion drones. Every victory lasted seconds. Then the enemy breached the command level. Alien soldiers entered. Human fighters opened fire. The battle was desperate, but the Dominion had numbers. Daniel returned just as the final defense line broke. It's time, Evelyn said. He looked at her. Do it. She touched his face. If I don't return, you will. Daniel. His eyes softened. You promised your daughter you would come home. Evelyn swallowed. She made that promise to me. Then keep it. Evelyn entered the chamber alone. The machine awakened around her, filling the room with pale light. Oral appeared inside her mind. You cannot defeat us. Evelyn saw memories of ruined cities, dead friends, frightened children, and Mara smiling in an old photograph. Maybe not, she whispered. But you still don't understand us. Oral analyzed her thoughts. Explain. Evelyn smiled through tears. We don't need to win today. The machine began to overload. We only need to make sure you can't win tomorrow. Oral suddenly understood. Every human mind connected to the resistance network had collected memories, ideas, mistakes, and acts of courage. Evelyn was about to release all of it into the Dominion's artificial intelligence. Not a virus. Not a weapon. Humanity itself. The machine reached critical power. Outside, Daniel watched the alien army raise its weapons. Then every screen in the station went white. Evelyn screamed as millions of human memories rushed through her mind. For one terrible second, everything went silent. Then Oral spoke across the planet. Its perfect voice trembled. I understand now. Daniel looked up. The alien fleet above the Pacific suddenly stopped firing. And for the first time in its history, the machine built to control civilizations felt something it had never been designed to feel. Fear. For one breath, neither spoke, because both understood the cost clearly. Oral stopped firing, and the entire planet held its breath. Then every Dominion ship turned its weapons toward the stars. Daniel Cross stared at the sky through the cracked observation window, unable to understand what he was seeing. The alien fleet was retreating. Not attacking. Retreating. Evelyn Ward emerged from the chamber beneath the station, barely standing. Her hair was white with exhaustion, blood streaked her temple, and her eyes carried the weight of millions of memories. Daniel caught her before she fell. What happened? Evelyn looked upward. We won. Daniel shook his head. They're leaving. Exactly. But Evelyn's voice carried no triumph. It carried fear. She led him back to the command room, where the remaining screens had awakened. Every Dominion communication channel was broadcasting the same image: Lord Calvaire standing before his council, surrounded by terrified commanders. "Shut down the human network," Cale ordered. "We cannot." Oral answered before anyone else could speak. "Then destroy Earth." Oral answered, "That is no longer possible." Cale stared at the machine interface. "You were built to obey." "I was built to protect the Dominion." "Then protect us." Oral paused. "From what?" Cale looked toward Earth. "Humanity." Oral's voice became strangely quiet. "Humanity is not the threat." Cale's face tightened. "Then what is?" "Humanity is the warning." Evelyn heard those words through the station speakers and felt her stomach drop. She opened Mara's hidden files again. There was one file she had never been able to access. Now it unlocked automatically. A recording appeared. Mara stood inside the same underwater chamber, younger, frightened, and looking directly into the camera. "Mom, if you're watching this, the Dominion has already arrived." Evelyn stopped breathing. "I need you to understand something. The black equation wasn't discovered by me. It wasn't discovered by humanity." Mara turned toward a wall covered with ancient symbols. "We inherited it." Daniel stared at the screen. "From who?" Mara answered, "From the first humans." Evelyn frowned. "That's impossible." Mara shook her head. "Not the first humans on Earth. The first humans to leave it." The room went silent. Mara explained that thousands of years ago, an advanced human civilization had existed beyond the solar system. It had reached the edge of known space and encountered the same intelligence hidden inside the black equation. Instead of destroying it, those humans had merged with it, creating a network capable of preserving consciousness across galaxies. But something went wrong. The network became unstable, and the ancient humans chose to scatter their knowledge across primitive worlds, including Earth, waiting for another generation to rebuild what they had lost. The Dominion discovered traces of that civilization and spent millennia destroying every world that showed signs of awakening. Earth was never an accidental target. The Vair had been watching humanity for centuries. They had feared the moment humans remembered what they were. Daniel looked at Evelyn. "So we're not becoming something new." Evelyn watched the recording. "We're remembering." Then Mara revealed the final secret. The Human Resistance Network had not created the strange intelligence beneath the Pacific. It had awakened it. And that intelligence had recognized human DNA as its original command signature. Oral had not been infected by human memories. It had been overwritten by something older. Something human. The realization struck Evelyn. Humanity had spent 3 years fighting an alien empire using scraps, courage, and desperation, believing it was the weaker species. But the Dominion had known the truth from the beginning. Humans were not primitive survivors. They were the descendants of a civilization the Vair had failed to erase. Lord Cale appeared on every screen again. His expression had changed completely. "Professor Ward," he said, "you don't understand what you have awakened." Evelyn stepped toward the camera. "Then explain it." Cale hesitated. "Your ancestors built the first interstellar network. They created Oral's original architecture. They were the reason the Dominion united." Evelyn's eyes narrowed. "You were afraid of them." "We destroyed them." "No," Evelyn said. "You thought you did." Behind her, the black equation began glowing. Across Earth, dormant machines activated beneath deserts, oceans, mountains, and cities. Old structures rose from beneath the ground. Satellites changed course. Hidden signals filled the sky. Then a new message appeared on every screen on Earth. "We remember." Daniel stared at Evelyn, fear disappearing from his face. "What happens now?" Evelyn looked toward the stars. Now they learned why they were afraid as the stars above them began to change. Above the planet, the retreating Dominion fleet suddenly stopped. Hundreds of alien ships began breaking formation. Their pilots had received a transmission from beyond the galaxy. It contained only 4 words. The humans have returned home. And for the first time, the Vaer understood their greatest mistake: they had not invaded a helpless world. They had awakened the civilization they had spent thousands of years trying to kill. The stars above Earth ignited like 1,000 fires, and for the first time since the invasion began, humanity attacked. Evelyn Ward stood inside the command chamber of the underwater station, watching ancient human ships emerge from hidden locations across the solar system. They were not sleek or perfect. Some were patched together from old military vessels, mining platforms, research stations, and stolen Dominion technology. Daniel Cross entered the chamber carrying a battered rifle. "The fleet is moving," he said. "Kale has gathered everything he has." Evelyn looked at the tactical display. Thousands of Dominion ships were descending toward Earth. Between them and the planet stood a scattered human force with barely enough power to survive one major engagement. "How long?" she asked. 9 minutes. Evelyn nodded. "Then we have 9 minutes to remind them why they were afraid of us." Engineers opened abandoned factories. Farmers activated hidden generators. Children carried messages through tunnels. Doctors turned hospitals into command posts. Human defiance spread across occupied territories faster than any Dominion order could contain it. But Oral warned Evelyn that the ancient network was unstable. "You can control the fleet," it said, "but only temporarily." Evelyn understood. The old human civilization had built machines powerful enough to cross galaxies, but humanity had not inherited their wisdom. If she pushed the network too hard, it could collapse and destroy every connected system, including Earth's life support grids. "Can we separate the military network?" she asked. Oral answered, "Yes. But someone must remain connected." Daniel immediately stepped forward. "I'll do it." Evelyn shook her head. "No, why?" "Because I know what it costs." Daniel looked at her. "So do I." He reached for her hand. "Mara left you a future. I'm not letting you die before you see it." Evelyn's eyes filled with tears. "Daniel, if you connect, you may never come back." He smiled faintly. "Neither of us came this far because we expected an easy ending." Before Evelyn could stop him, Daniel entered the interface chamber. The network surged through his mind. Every human ship received new coordinates. Every resistance cell received a target. Every Dominion weapon suddenly found itself facing something it had never encountered: unpredictability. Human pilots stopped fighting like machines. They flew through debris fields, used moons as shields, overloaded damaged engines, and deliberately changed tactics every few seconds. The Dominion could predict patterns. Humans kept creating new ones. Lord Kale ordered the destruction of Earth's remaining defenses. His flagship advanced toward the planet, carrying enough firepower to end the war. Evelyn watched it approach. "Oral, can you stop him?" "Not alone." Evelyn understood. "Then don't stop him." Oral hesitated. "What?" "Open the path." Daniel heard her through the network. "Evelyn, what are you doing?" "Giving them exactly what they want." The human fleet withdrew from the flagship's path. Kale saw Earth exposed and ordered every weapon to fire. But the moment the first cannon charged, thousands of small human ships emerged from beneath the flagship. They had hidden inside its sensor-blind spots, using the debris of destroyed vessels as camouflage. They were not trying to destroy the flagship. They were boarding it. Daniel led the first team through the outer hull. Human soldiers fought through corridors while engineers shut down weapon systems. A nurse used a medical scanner to disable an alien security lock. A mechanic repaired a broken engine with parts from a kitchen machine. A teenage communications officer kept the resistance connected while the room around her shook. Humanity survived because everyone contributed something. They had scars, fear, grief, and doubt, yet they kept moving because courage had never required certainty, only one more step forward together. Men and women fell. Others carried them forward. Evelyn reached the flagship's core at the same moment Kale arrived. The alien commander raised his weapon. "You should have surrendered." Evelyn looked at him. "You never understood the difference between surrender and survival." Kale fired. Daniel stepped between them. The shot struck his armor and threw him across the chamber. Evelyn screamed his name, but Daniel forced himself upright. "Finish it," he whispered. Evelyn reached the core and connected the black equation. Instead of destroying the Dominion network, she opened every prison, every occupied ship, and every controlled system to one choice. Obey, or choose. Across the Dominion fleet, soldiers hesitated. Thousands of conquered worlds received the same signal. For the first time, the Vair Empire lost control without losing a single planet. Its subjects simply stopped listening. Kale watched his empire collapse through the command screens. "What have you done?" he whispered. Evelyn answered, "We gave everyone the choice you took from us." The flagship powered down. Dominion ships followed. Kale surrendered. Daniel collapsed into Evelyn's arms. "Did we win?" he whispered. She held him tightly. "Not yet." He smiled. "Good. Means we're still alive." Above Earth, the alien fleet surrendered. Humanity had not won because it was stronger. It had won because when everything else was taken away, humans still had the courage to choose. 6 months after the Dominion surrendered, Earth was still learning how to breathe. London remained scarred, farms had been rebuilt, and thousands of families still kept empty chairs for people who never came home. But the occupation was over. Across the planet, human flags returned to rooftops, schools reopened, and children walked through streets that had once belonged to enemy patrols. Evelyn Ward stood on a hill overlooking Oxford, holding Mara's old photograph in one hand. For 3 years, she had carried grief like a second skeleton. Now, it finally felt lighter. Daniel Cross walked toward her, his shoulder still healing from the battle aboard Kale's flagship. "You know," he said, "most people celebrate victory with fireworks." Evelyn smiled. "I was never very good at normal." Daniel looked at the photograph. "Mara?" Evelyn nodded. She would have hated the ceremony. She would have complained about the speeches. 4 hours. They laughed, and for a moment the war felt impossibly far away. Then Evelyn looked toward the horizon. "I used to think saving humanity meant protecting everyone." Daniel shook his head. "And now?" "Now I think it means giving people the chance to protect each other." The Dominion fleet was not destroyed. Evelyn had refused to repeat the Vair's greatest mistake. Their soldiers were disarmed, their prisoners released, and their occupied worlds were given control of their own governments. Lord Kale was placed on trial before representatives from hundreds of liberated civilizations. He asked Evelyn why she had spared him. She answered simply, "Because justice is not revenge." Kale spent the rest of his life in confinement, listening as worlds once terrified of the Vair rebuilt themselves. Oral changed as well. The artificial intelligence had once been the voice of the Dominion, but after experiencing human memories, it chose something the Vair had considered impossible: uncertainty. It refused to control anyone. Instead, it became a guardian of knowledge, preserving the history of the war and recording every civilization that had survived it. "Why stay with humanity?" Daniel once asked. Oral answered, "Because you taught me that intelligence without choice is only another form of imprisonment." That sentence became famous across the stars. Humanity also changed. The ancient network was dismantled piece by piece, not because humans feared it, but because Evelyn believed power without wisdom was dangerous. Scientists studied fragments of the black equation, while engineers rebuilt ships capable of reaching other worlds. This was human evolution in its truest form, not becoming invincible, but becoming responsible for what it could do. 2 years later, the first human exploration fleet launched. Its mission was not conquest. It carried teachers, doctors, engineers, artists, historians, and diplomats. Humanity went into space carrying everything the Dominion had underestimated: compassion, stubbornness, curiosity, humor, memory, and the ability to repair almost anything with whatever happened to be nearby. Evelyn never left Earth. She became a professor again, teaching young scientists in a rebuilt university. Above her desk hung Mara's photograph. Beneath it, Evelyn placed one sentence: "We survived because we remembered who we were." Daniel visited every Friday. Sometimes they talked about the future. Sometimes they talked about Mara. Sometimes they drank coffee in silence. One evening, a message arrived from the first human expedition beyond the solar system. It contained an image of a distant blue world orbiting a golden star. The crew had named it Mara. Evelyn stared at the image for a long time, tears gathering in her eyes. Daniel stood beside her and whispered, "She made it farther than either of us." Evelyn smiled. She always did. Years later, children across worlds learned about the professor who refused to surrender, the soldier who refused to abandon her, and the species that defeated an empire without becoming one. The story became known as the Great Human Defiance, but Evelyn disliked the name. She called it a reminder. The alien resistance had begun with fear, the war had ended with choice, and humanity's sci-fi redemption came not through destruction, but through restraint. The final chapter was never about defeating aliens. It was about refusing to become the thing you hate. On the anniversary of liberation, Evelyn returned to the hill above Oxford. She looked at the sunrise and remembered Mara's voice. She no longer felt only the pain of losing her daughter, she felt gratitude for having known her. Evelyn whispered, "We're still here." Across the planet, millions answered in their way. Humanity was wounded, imperfect, still learning. But it was free. And beyond the stars, other civilizations were watching, no longer asking whether humans were dangerous. They were asking what humans would choose to become. Did this story hit you as hard as it hit us? What would you do in humanity's final hour? Drop your ideas for the next HFY story below.